Welcome to the Pinelander Podcast, the official podcast of Pineland, broadcasting to you from an undisclosed location deep inside Pineland, where we discuss faith, family, finances, firearms, freedom, food, and everything else in between, with those who believe in living free and living out the values that made this country free. All right, welcome to the Pinelander Podcast. My name is Paul LaFavor. I'm here with my sidekick, my ranger buddy, Mike Blackburn.
Partner in crime.
We're just in the G-Base, taking a knee facing out, drinking coffee. Today, we have another special guest. We say special. I guess all our guests are special. But this guy, we've been trying to have on the podcast for a while. This is the hotness. I think this is something that everybody is going to want to know about and enjoy because what you don't know can kill you. But today we have our guest, Boone Cutler. He's the author of The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. And so, Boone, hey, welcome to the podcast.
Brother, I can't thank you enough, man. I mean, I'm in with the cool kids now. I got my coffee, and I am on a knee facing out, so I guess I'm ready to roll.
Right on, yeah.
Hey, if you're gonna come in the G base, you got to help with the security. So that's just the way. That's the way we roll.
Hey, we can pull security
if you can't help.
Yeah, you can come to the CP, and we'll pull security. Hey, Boone. So this is an exciting new book. I mean, this thing is it's hit the ground running. It's doing very well. Now, let me just ask you this. What is fifth generation warfare, and why did you decide to write this book?
Well, a couple things. The crazy thing is that every single, and I think this is a really cool, I wish I was better at it. The first question I always get is, what is fifth generation warfare? What are the generations of war, so on and so forth? And I'll get to that. But I also want to say that, being on your podcast, specifically, two wonderful operators like yourselves who've been there, done that, who walk the walk. This is a big deal. And it's humbling for me because I know on your worst day, you guys both probably know more about this stuff than I do. And that's the God's honest truth. I was just the guy who was lucky enough to put it down in words to tell people about it. But it's really it's something that I think all of us, before I get into the definition, I think all of us, within the military, well, a lot within the military, but mainly within the special operations community, I think we all have our cackles up and our ears pointed forward when we hear that term, fifth generation warfare, because that's the deal. I mean, that's what's happening. That's what's rocking and rolling. That's the invisible hand that's out there. And so many people, I'm glad you asked me the question. So many people just don't even know it exists. And that's the whole point. You're not supposed to know it exists. And that's why people get tricked, and there's so much stuff going on. My co-author, General Mike Flynn, he has a tremendous following. Not only does he have a tremendous following, but he's also got a tremendous amount of haters. And these folks, I watch them on social media, and I'll poll that audience too, and I'll see, hey, what is your beef with this guy? And I have yet to confer or to interact with one human being that had a beef with General Flynn that didn't have a beef based on something that has to do with fifth generation warfare. The stuff that happened when he was national security, when he was with the Trump administration, and before that, there's a lot that was behind that, and there was a lot of maneuvering, and he was the guy who was going to be in the position to put the hurt on a lot of people, and so they maneuvered on him. That's just the bottom line, and all that. The truth will come out, and he and I talk about that. The truth will come out, and it has, by and large. I think, especially since we've got the guide out, and people were like, "Oh, wait, that's what really happened," because there's a section in here. Why did you write this book? And in his commentary, he writes about that. He's like, and you could see this guy. It would be hard pressed to find somebody in the United States that has had more of those effects put on their life than he has. And there's a reason for it, because because of what he knows, who he knows, and what he know and who he knows did what. So anyway, back to I want to make sure I pay my proper accolades and let everybody out there know who's involved and what this thing is, because again, whenever you bring up General Flynn, his name, you're either going to get people who think he's the Archangel Michael, or you're going to get the other side of the house and people think he's Lucifer. And it's, it's neither. He's a man, he's a man, and he's a man of principle. And I just want to throw these things out there before people start listening to the whole conversation. And again, talking about fifth generation warfare with gentlemen, to the esteem such as yourself is an honor for me. Thank you for that.
Hey, that's I don't know if I can live up to those accolades, but appreciate it. And I don't know if
I can probably answer your question now.
Yeah, and but part of that is this is a learning experience too. So having your book, I knew there was something fishy, funky going on, behind the curtain, and you're not supposed to know what's going on. But we are like, okay, we all know something is wrong, but we don't know exactly how to articulate it. And that's what I like what you have done. You're showing us, hey, this is exactly what's going on.
Well, I think for a lot of people now, it's like they just didn't want to face it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, no, man, our government wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And I think especially with, let's just say Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, and the release of all the the documentation in-house. I mean, people are now starting to realize that they're not as pure as they want us all to believe. I mean, there's a lot of scheming going on here, and
I think that people generally have had everybody watches a lot of TV and everybody's watched their different spy shows, and they see things happening and maneuvering. But historically, I think what people have in their mind is, these influence operations are kind of cloak and dagger. They're done behind the scenes, away from the populace, so they don't get involved. But and that's kind of, I think, where people's visual mindset has been. But now they're seeing, hey, listen, this isn't done in the backdrop. This is done in the closed, dark spaces of your mind. Like, that's where they're at. They're not, in some dark alley, in a warehouse somewhere off at some harbor that nobody ever goes to. No, this is right in your house. This is right in your phone. This is articulated messaging specifically to influence the way you think and to change a country. You don't have to take over the physical space of a country to change it anymore. You just have to take over the mind space of the populace to get them to make the changes you want.
That's right.
No doubt. That's, having gone through the Special Forces qualification course, this is something you have an aha moment when you look at, information operations, when you look at, pushing a narrative and how you want to shape that population. And a lot of guys, they're really not aware of that until they sit in a classroom 8 hours a day and they're like, whoa. And so that's the aha moment with this book also.
Yeah, and even like in our community, I can be honest with you. I mean, we're focused on so many other things. The sexier things, right? Busting into a room and familiarity with your weapon system and being on the range. But when we get into this sort of topic, that's really been General Michael Flynn's freaking playground for years. And yours as well. I mean, this is what you guys do full time, and you think about this a lot, and you put a lot of effort into it, and you certainly have a much deeper understanding of how to execute this stuff than we do, because we really don't even think about this stuff until we are deployed overseas, and then we're thinking about it in other countries. So it's not, we come home and we kind of like dump all that. We don't realize that this trade craft, some of these skills are actually being used here domestically. And that's really what your book does. I mean, it really says, hey, man, this is happening all around you. This is not just for, some third world country we're trying to overthrow.
No, it's absolutely not. It's happening. It's right here, right now, 24/7. And it's been going on that way for a while. But again, how do you, and this, you want to operate in a way that the fewest number of people know you're doing it, so you have the least opportunity to be thwarted in some way. You want to keep that stuff quiet. And And that is what's happening. And there are entities, there are state actors involved, there are non-state actors, there are NGOs that are involved. And in the same way that we said, I always call it the game. This is the way you play the game. Don't get mad about it. Don't get upset about it. Don't be like, oh man, shucks, I'm in a game. No, just accept the fact. Yeah, this is the game. And you got to know your environment, right? Know your operational environment. And this is the operational environment that we're teaching the citizenry of like, hey, listen, you've got to know this game. And it's about protect your mind, control your emotions. Don't let yourself become a tool for somebody else's objective. Usually it's a global objective at this point in time, because that is the game. Everybody's trying to globalize because somebody out there wants to be the richest king on the planet and control everything with that invisible hand. And that's going to continue to happen because everything is weaponized until something better is weaponized. And right now, with the advent of that's an aha moment right there, right?
Yeah,
Everything
absolutely.
is weaponized until something better can be weaponized. And I think if the citizenry kind of gets that around that in their brain housing group, that right there, everything is weaponized until something better can be weaponized. I mean, look at the aircraft. Look at the hunting rifle gets turned into some sort of force on force rifle. Look at every single thing, the car, the tank, gasoline, dynamite. Every single thing gets weaponized until you can why did we stop using dynamite for weapons? Well, we came out with better explosives. So it gets better and better, and the techniques get better. And within social media now, if I looked at your entire audience, they were all just standing in front of me. I said, raise your hand if you think your phone is listening to you. And I guarantee you, how many people, 10 people, 100 people, 2,000, out of 100 people, how many people you think would raise their hand?
A lot.
More, yeah, probably more today than 5 years ago.
But not enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, your phone is absolutely listening to, but it's not just listening to your voice. It's listening to how you move. It's listening to, what locations you're in. It's listening to, how long you stay on a certain photo, what you touch, where you scroll, how you pan. It's collecting so much data, these psychographics. In previous times, we used to talk about demographics. What are the demographics? Demographics today is like a stone wheel. Like nobody gives a damn about stone wheels. Demographics. We care about psychographics. We care about the thing that makes the thing that causes people to do the stuff, and getting them at the core level. And especially the CCP. They have done a tremendous amount of work to understanding what it is that causes people to think the way they think, and how do they get into the interworkings of that thinking process so they actually can start controlling people's decisions.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, your book, what I think the biggest thing that the takeaway from the book is, it's a big topic. Fifth generational warfare. My goodness. But really, what combats this is just being aware of it.
Yeah, that's the PSYOP, right? The PSYOP is to tell people what the PSYOP is, and empower the people. I think the game is always empower the people. I just think that is always the default. Like if you're ever sitting there going, "Hey, I don't know what to do right now," I'll tell you what to do right now. You empower the people. That's always the answer. Empower the people. And so we have this thing right now. We don't know. A lot of people don't know what it is. They don't know how to deal with it. It is huge. It is big. Because when we're talking about fifth generation warfare, and just to get everybody kind of tuned in, first generation warfare was pre-gunpowder. Okay. And then second generation came after gunpowder. And then these generations continued. At some point in time, we had nuclear weapons. We had trench warfare. That's a generation. We go on and so forth. And now we're up to that fifth generation where, non-kinetics and influence operations have existed through all generations of warfare. But now they're not an ancillary and supporting strategy. Now they're the primary tactic. And so when we're talking about fifth generation warfare, we're talking about how can I manipulate a populace by disrupting their economy? How can I manipulate a populace by disrupting or creating a news cycle or messaging that causes, that foment against the government? How can I create financially some sort of personal thing? Not just, you're talking about the economy of a government, but now especially look past the pandemic, look how people's personal finances were hugely affected. Some people made more money, a lot of people made less money, a lot of business owners went completely out of business, nobody helped them at all. And now that's just been absorbed into the bigger businesses. So that's a big deal. Lawfare is a huge thing, internationally and within the United States. How many people do you know that consider an attorney is nothing more than a hired gun? They're there to deplete your resources. That's what they do. So I have no problem charging money for this guide. Some people are like, oh, you should make it for free so we can all be empowered. Well, here's the deal. First of all, if I don't put a price on it, nobody thinks it's has a value.
That's true.
Second of which,
Yeah.
when a bunch of knuckleheads and with really cool kit come to my house and say, hey, we're gonna do this, that, and the other thing, because we're in those types of times, I'm going to need an attorney. Well, where the hell am I going to get the money for an attorney if I don't have money? So if I'm going to put my neck out there, and General Flynn's going to put his neck out there, and believe me, I know the man better than a lot of people, and I know how much money he is continuing to have to spend in this constant battle. And just like we need food, just like we need shelter, just like we need warmth, just like we need a way to defend ourselves, protect our family, protect our homes, there's a legal aspect to that, and it's damn expensive. And that's where they deplete you. That's where they get you.
Yeah, I think something that the first thing I thought of when I saw the title of your book is it exposes something that, Sun Tzu says, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. And, that's the idea behind PSYOPs, I believe, right? I mean, you're discombobulating your enemy even before, there's a flight or any of those things. But, and then the other thing is, it's a wake up call. So what do we stand to lose if not enough of us do anything? We don't want to know.
Well, the thing we lose is our individual freedom and liberty. And I know that those are talking points that people have used for a long time, but let's look at this. The CCP obviously has a global agenda. Yeah. And they are working with Soros. They're working with Zuckerberg, Gates. All these folks are working together, and we call them out by name in the guide. We call them out by name. We didn't pull any punches. Yeah. Nobody's going to have to guess. Which, I mean, come on. If you want an enemy list, it's right here in the adversary list. Mm-hmm. It's right here in the guide, and I'm sure we're top on their list too with how they're going to control this situation. But they're also not stupid. They're only going to legitimize us if they even address it. So they're going to work within their shadows, and that's fine. But ultimately, what do we have to lose? Just imagine that you're completely controlled. Completely controlled. Your family's controlled. Arbitrarily, they ship your kids off to war to go do something for some reason that they don't even give an explanation for anymore because they know nobody believes anything. Your food is rationed. You basically are controlled. Every single thing is controlled. How many kids can you have? How much money can you have? Where do you get your medical care? How old are you allowed to live? These are all, I think, real things. We have this global entity, these elitists who are just convinced that the biggest problem with the planet is people. Now, on a bad day, I might agree with them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to start depopulating the planet. But these people will, and they'll depopulate it to the point that they can completely control it, and then they consider that humanity. But they don't have the same. These people don't live like you and me. These people don't wake up in the morning and go, okay, it's the 27th of the month. I got to wait till the 1st. I got $20. How much do I put in my gas tank, and how much do I put towards eggs? Because I need to do both, and I only got $20. And if you're trying to get eggs today, good luck for you, because that's not the easiest thing. Buy chickens. And so this is the whole deal. And without getting stale here, this is the whole deal. There are factors in play: state actors, non-state actors, non-government organizations. And if people don't know any of that stuff, just get the guide. It explains everything, and also the history. How have these groups and entities, how have they performed over the past in history? And what was their goal? What are their objectives? And does it look like it's the same now? And it absolutely does. It looks like it's the same now. at the end of the day, there's always going to be a pecking order. No matter what we do, there is always a pecking order. And you can either accept the fact there's a pecking order, or you can get pecked on. This book lets you know how you're getting pecked on and lets you know how to stop it.
Yeah, to me, that's what this book really is, and this is why I like it so much. Because if you went out and just asked the average American, "Are we at war right now?" and I'm not talking about Ukraine, they would probably say no, because we're so conditioned and so used to the kinetic type of warfare. And what your book does is it's kind of like in the Matrix. I mean, it's, you're jerking the cable out of the occipital lobe, and it's like, dude, you're a battery in a tub, and now you need to be educated a little bit, because you've just been shocked. Okay, there is a war going on around you, and it allows people, after reading your book, I think what happens is their eyes start getting kind of open, and they're kind of looking around, and they're starting to recognize things that they never recognized before, and the new this new fifth generation type warfare starts becoming clear to them. They're able to observe it, and I think that's the service that your book has done for the American and really the world. I mean, this book, you've got flags on there. You got the U.S. flag on there, but this is for the world. This isn't just for Americans.
Well, you're right. It's not just for Americans. If it takes a network to defeat a network, if we know this to be true and that the network is global, well, then we must have a global network to defeat it. And, that's the reason for, the design here. At the back of the book, it says humanity's fight against globalism. That's what this is. This is humanity's fight against globalism. Right now, we're having it translated. The guide is being translated to Spanish, Danish, French, German, Italian. I can't. There are probably a couple others in there I can't think of right now, but we're having this thing produced in multiple languages to get it out there, to get people thinking. Because if you just went step by step and followed each one of these lessons, there's not even page numbers in the guide. They're just lessons. Each one is a quick lesson, and absorb that and follow the doomsday clock in the beginning. Look at those QR codes. Follow all that information. Because the guide is here. It's not a book. It's really a multimedia guide. It's a workbook. It's a manual. It's so many different things, and it's easy enough that you can carry all the time. But the psychological warfare has been going on a long time. The thing that really gets people screwed up is they think they know the definition of that, and so they go with what they think the definition is, and they couldn't be more wrong. So we actually start getting definitions clarified so we can at least have the same conversation. No, it's kind of like if you get a Jewish guy in the room and a Catholic guy in the room, and maybe both of them are, I don't know, early 20s. So maybe they don't know a whole lot, but they've been raised in that faith. And you say, okay, have a conversation about God. Well, you just threw the word God out, but they see God as two different things, but they won't be able to communicate because they don't have the same definitions. So what we have to first do is get on the same sheet of music, the same definitions. Hey, these are the definitions. These are the terms. This is the situation. These terms describe that situation. So now when you see a new situation, you now have the terms in order to describe it so you can communicate with another human being about what you just saw. Because the problem is we keep communicating with different frames of reference. Once we get the same frame of reference, what I say, what's the default always? Empower the people. Once we are all on the same sheet of music with the same definitions and can communicate, we become empowered just through communication, and then people start taking action. Awesome. The confusion has been the problem so far. Now we're removing that confusion to empower the people.
Right on. I mean, yeah. So by definition, this is a freedom-loving citizens field manual.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're giving us, operating terminology, and I just wanted to say this too, because this is as an aha moment. This is not tinfoil hatted to say, like you are saying, there's a small group of global elitists who are controlling everything, and this is kind of the wake up call of the book. Am I right? So it is the wake up call, and
now, and we haven't gotten into that yet because that's a whole other argument.
Yeah.
You're going to hear some people say the elitist group is this, the elitist group is that. The elitist
Yeah.
group started 5 billion years ago in a cave somewhere in Istanbul, and it's gone on forever. And you know what? Listen,
Yeah.
we didn't get into all that. And here's why. There are so many people out there who are focused at an 800-meter target they can't see, and they're just trying to plink anywhere around it. They don't have a spotter. They don't understand the weapon system they're using, and they're just missing everything. Meanwhile, there's 30-meter targets popping up all over the place, and they're not even trying.
That's good.
Okay,
good analogy.
So people who are working at this 800-meter target, I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll get to that 800-meter target, but you got to get off your ass. Okay, and we've got to start moving and popping targets 30 meters at a time. We clear this 30, we move forward, clear that 30. And before you know it, we'll get to that 800-meter target. But we got to move and we got to hit our close targets. Talking about whether it's this Illuminati group or that Illuminati group and stuff that started in the fantastical past is not helping us. It's a distraction. Okay, so what we really focused on in the guide is doctrine and technique. Doctrine and technique. You can plug and play whoever you think is doing it. I don't care. But if we're showing you the doctrine and the technique, now you know how to put rounds on targets. And whoever it is, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care who the enemy is. We just want to know the people who are using this doctrine and this technique. I don't care what you call them, but that's your adversary.
So about a month ago, we had the Tyree Nichols incident in Memphis. Now, after reading 5GW, I look at that situation a little differently than maybe most. Okay, to me, it's there's a nation of 350 million people or so. Unfortunately, we have a lot of incidents, crime, and horrible things that happen probably on a daily basis in this country that we're not even aware of. As far as a national audience. There's also a lot of great things that are happening every single day. But when you have 350 million people running around, you're going to get the good, bad, and everything in between. When I look at a Terry Nichols type situation, I look at someone that's actually conducting a psyop because they've cherry picked this incident. And it's not to say that it doesn't need attention, and obviously it's going to run through the justice system, and they're going to take this thing apart, and justice is going to be served. But I think this thing is serving a much different purpose than just a pursuit of justice. What say you, Ben?
Well, let me throw this out, and I'll read this cite and verse right from the guide. You tell me if this whole situation is lesson 1-9. And it's real simple. You tell me if this sounds anything like what you're looking at. And the people that are listening right now, it doesn't matter any of these incidents that you're talking about.
Right. You could plug and play anything.
Any one of them. Okay, now let's talk about doctrine and technique. Okay, 1-9, lesson 1-9, psychological actions, psyacs. A psychological action is the occurrence of something that affects the target audience. The psyact and the responsive behavior create the desired psychological reaction of a target audience. Is that kind of what you're seeing there? Somebody's creating something that develops a desired psychological reaction?
Absolutely.
Well, that's called a psyact.
That's right.
Okay, it can either be intentionally planned or a natural occurrence. Either way, psyacs are implemented or maneuvered to affect a specific target audience to support a psyop plan.
Yeah, so don't let it go to waste. Whatever it is, don't let it go to waste.
Don't let it go to waste.
Don't let it go to waste. You have within psyacs, you have agents of action. Okay, and this gets really broke down into the guide, but you have an incident incidental agent of action and a discretionary agent of action. Two different groups of folks. Now, the incidental agent of action can just be a guy who fucked up. Okay, just made a mistake, fucked up, did some stupid shit. It looked really, really bad optically, and someone says, "I can use that." Okay, and then they start putting the spin on it. That was incidental. Now you got discretionary agents of action, and these are the agent provocateurs. These are the guys out there going, you know what, I'm going to make that happen so this group gets affected, and I have something that I can use to control and influence that group. So I'm going to make this thing happen. And so this is where the guide gets very deep. We start that all the stuff you're talking about. And there's been other incidences across the country and across the world where people are like, this is very polarizing, and I have an opinion, and it's going to go this way. And then another group has, hey, just as polarized, just as opinionated, they're going in a different way. Now you guys are fighting, and meanwhile, the incident you're fighting about may or may not have even fucking occurred.
That's right.
But you're still fighting.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is the goal.
And you believe it which is the goal. And you believe it with all your heart because you're a good person. Nobody out there is acting like I'm Satan and I'm going to make a lot of bad things happen. They don't really believe that way. Okay. I mean, we think they believe that way because they're not of our particular, persuasion. But in their mind, they think they're doing the right thing for the greater good. Usually. The other thing they think is, how do I get paid on it? And that's really just the bottom line. There's always a pecking order. So when we talk about these things and we talk about discretionary and incidental agents of action, it's very important, and that's what the guide goes through. The whole first chapter is just definitions. So just like yourself, when you see something occur on the news or you read about it or you hear people talking about it, I love listening to people talk while they're waiting for the restaurant, or especially in the South, if you're waiting to order food at Panera, you're going to be there for 15 minutes because everybody's just chatting it up like they've known each other forever, and you find out everything. And it's amazing to hear how people articulate information of what they see and where did they see it. Because I don't care what the incident is. If you tell me the perspective of that incident, I'll be able to tell you, you learn that information from a friend, you learn that information from Fox News, you learn that information from CNN, or you learn that information from a friend who watches CNN or a friend who watches Fox News, because it's always in those groups. And that's what these are. When you see news agencies, they're really just psyop factories. A news agency is a psyop factory.
No doubt.
Just get that plugged into your brain.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears here because this is another fun one. Critical race theory. Depends on where you're at, right? Some people are very much for it. It must be in school. It must be taught in schools. It's very important. And then other places are like, nah, man, we don't need to deal with this. So, again, this is another thing that I think is classic fifth generation warfare is race hustling. Okay, and the government benefits from racial strife. What do you think,
sure.
Ron?
People benefit from it in different ways. You have one political party who says all these things are bad. Those people are to blame, and if you elect me, I will control those people because you're a victim. Okay, and both political parties do that. They just do it in different ways. And so whenever you create a victim, you create a need. You create a need. Now you've just developed the impetus for me to fill that need. So whenever you see a victim, what you're really seeing is a person who wants to create a void they can fill.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So we have a lot of that now. I mean, identity politics and all the rest of it. And would you say that some people are just more susceptible to psychological operations than others? And then, how is that?
I think that people don't realize how susceptible they are to psyop. And it's not about being dumb. It's just about being unaware. And there's an arrogance. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know, you ever been to a bar and they got that hypnotist guy there and there's that one guy who goes, I can never be hypnotized. And before you know it, he's standing up there picking his nose, looking like an idiot. Well, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there going, I can't be psyoped. Meanwhile, you're the guy standing on stage picking your nose, looking like an idiot. It's a constant thing. Every human being has susceptibilities. Okay, there are very generalized susceptibilities, vulnerabilities, and there are very specific ones. That's why psychographics are so important right now, because I can reach inside your brain with this little machine that you're holding right now, listening to this show. We can reach inside your brain anytime we want. And I don't want to do it by, okay, are you a 55-year-old male living in Alabama, most likely to vote for Trump? No, those are demographics. I want the psychographics. I want to target you based upon, do you wake up in the morning and need coffee? Think about that one factor. Do you wake up in the morning and need coffee? What susceptibilities did you just learn by a human being who needs coffee every morning? If I'm looking at your Amazon profile and I'm like, wow, this guy, okay, I'm looking at psychographics now, right? If I'm looking at your Amazon profile and I go, wow, this guy drinks, 4 pounds of coffee a week, looks like they got dandruff. Looks like so I got a dandruff coffee drinker who likes a very, very specific form of chocolate. And now all of a sudden, what about this chocolate? Oh, this chocolate comes from this area. What's the fascination of that? Now you start, it's kind of like a link matrix, but with your emotions, with your sentiments.
Now, is this all a part of the larger sort of human terrain?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're getting all the individual particulars, but then they're trying to group them, right, and kind of figure out how to manipulate those groups. Is that fair?
I live on a street with probably, I don't know, 20, 30 other houses. Every night, each one of these people does something with their time. They turn on a TV, they go on social media. Every single one of them. Now, if the house three doors down, all they watch is the History Channel, and it's usually something black and white about Hitler. Okay, I reasonably can find out that tells me, hey, this person is susceptible to this type. They're interested in this. Another house down the street, I don't know anything about it, but they're watching the Home Gardening Channel 22 hours a day. There's a lot to be learned just by knowing what people want to look at. Porn. The type of porn people want to look at. These are psychographics. This is where they're getting in your heads. If I find out all these things you like because it's on a record, what you buy, what you watch, where you hang out, where you spend your time. If my phone is within 5 feet of your phone and, there's 5 of us hanging out one night drinking beers at the local bar, and then we go home and the next day we're getting advertisements for stuff we've never seen before, well, that means another person in the group was looking up that information. And so the assumption is if you're in a group and that person's looking it up, maybe you need the same thing. So the next time you guys are hanging out together and you get an advertisement for Viagra that you've never had before, it means your buddy's dick can't get hard. He's getting advertisements, looking it up every day.
Oh, my God. Is this gotten so advanced that they're targeting individuals, are able to target individuals with this kind of information?
If it's the right individual, absolutely so. I'll give an example.
if it's someone, it wouldn't be Paul or I or even you, but somebody that is important to them for whatever reason.
Okay, say we're 3 best friends, right? And I just wrote this best-selling book, and since we're friends, maybe somebody wants to get to me and to change my opinion, to change what I'm talking about, what perspective inside the guide. Well, it's going to be hard to get to me. But if someone starts micro-targeting each one of my friends, my peer group, my circle, then the next thing you know, I'm going to be affected too because of rules of social conformity. So, if all your friends start buying 7mm 08, it is like, men and guns are kind of like chicks and purses. I got to have that too. And so it becomes rules of social conformity get used constantly. A cold bump. You want to get a nice lady, put her over here, put a guy over there, develop, a rapport based upon, something that person's interested in. And next thing you know, you're best friends and you're micro messaging them on a constant basis. And over time, duration and time, frequency and time, you're going to be able to influence that person. constantly. Your friends influence you all the time. You influence your friends all the time. So if I want to go after a person, if I want to go after Donald Trump, I'm not going after Donald Trump. I'm going to find out the 5 people he talks to the most, and I'm going to go after their family members.
Got it.
Yeah, that's something that I mean, just a few years ago, maybe not too long ago, but you have this indirect approach. I had this aha moment. You're reading, I think I was reading Liddell Hart or whatever, Clausewitz, and just the indirect approach, the art of the indirect approach. And so I
Right.
think that's a big thing with psyops as it's weaponized sociology is you don't, like you just said, you're not coming straight at it. It's a bull flanking maneuver on a covered concealed route, and that could be like those 4 guys you talked about, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not straight at you. And I think that's what the beauty of, if I could say that, of this their activities or tactics. You don't see it as direct. They're just coming at you from these obliques, and it's tiered. Is that right?
It is, and I got to tell you, I can sit here all day long and say, that is just the dastardly, most awful, horrible thing. But at the same time, I also got to respect the technique.
Yep.
It's kind of like going into a fight. You're going to go in there to win, but you're also not going to, you're going to make sure you got something at the end of your front side all the time. You're not just going to let something slide. You got to be there to win. And so, as much as I think all this is horrible and degrading to society, that's what people do. That's what people do to society. It's gone on forever. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've been in different places and seen it to different degrees. It's going to continue to happen. Right now, the flavor of choice to make that happen is 5th generation warfare. It's economic, it's legal, it's psyop, it's all the things at once, because access, these little machines here, gives somebody access. Before, if we wanted to influence an area, you'd have to send in a team. You'd have to go in. You'd have to be there. Then you have to create, all your contacts and everything, and you get them moving, and you're motivating people to get things done. But you had to be there, and then you had to meet people, and then you had to establish rapport, and then you had to do all this other stuff. I don't have to do that now. Now I just have to find your friend who you hang out with on social media, chat them up, and get that person saturated with all the stuff I want to talk to. And then I just observe. I know naturally they're going to start talking to you because you guys talk 2-3 times a day. And I made sure I knew that before I hit you up. So it's one of these things where we got to respect the technique, but that doesn't mean we stay ignorant.
Okay. So what is Boone's family, Boone's friends? What's the advice that you're giving to your, how you raising your family? What kind of advice are you giving them before you shoot them out that front door? What are you telling your closest friends on dealing with the realities of 5GW?
Everything that has been written in session 1, Introduction to 5th Generation Warfare, is exactly what myself and General Flynn tell everybody we know. All the people that we love, this is what we tell them. And the guide itself, the book itself, didn't just, hey, we're going to write a book. The way it happened, General Flynn and I were sitting in a hallway, and we're just having a conversation. He's talking to me about how he's, because he's been traveling the country doing these speaking engagements with one specific target audience, which has not been my target audience. My target audience has been the veteran community for the last decade doing advocacy. So I've been within the veteran space talking about these things, and also talking about a good amount of PSYOP, because people just have those questions. And I was blessed enough to have learned PSYOP prior to the digital age. So it's kind of like, which was really cool, because everything that's happening in the digital space really just happens in the physical space. One's just faster, but all the access points are the same. And people who work in the digital space don't necessarily have game to be able to recruit and to get people to motivate people face to face. So I'm real blessed for that.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. Of course, we see that everywhere, though. We see where, the newer generations are just unfamiliar with the old school techniques, which they could find themselves in.
I don't know when you went in the military, but I went in the military. I joined right after the Panama invasion. I went to Benning, got through basic in 1990. And then I did a tour in Germany. Then I went to Bragg, and And I don't know if you remember back then, I don't know what your time frame is, but fieldcraft was a huge deal. Like you'd go to the field and it was like, okay, I'm the smart guy who learned how to get bungee cords to pop up a hooch, instead of trying to tie 550 cord in the middle of the night. It's fucking, so you learned fieldcraft.
That's
And
right.
like everybody had their little thing, their little kits that, their little food prep kit or something. You learned fieldcraft when you set up a patrol base or something. You learned fieldcraft. And then all of a sudden we break out into into the forever wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. And I know in Iraq, I mean, it was all
Bobs.
what fieldcraft?
Yeah,
It
right.
was no.
Here's your room.
Exactly. It's about taking a room. It's about taking a street, a block. It's about identifying something. The fieldcraft, as far as woodland fieldcraft, we spent how many years did the United States military just basically throw woodland fieldcraft almost out the window because they had to focus on other things? And I often wondered what happened with that, because I don't know, I took pride in that, being a division trooper and knowing how to live out of a rucksack like perfectly and manage and be really okay. It's fine. I mean, there's skill that takes years to kind of refine, as you know.
Yeah, it does.
And what happens to a standing military when all of a sudden everybody forgets how to do their own fieldcraft, and you're like an E6 and don't know how to fucking do any of that stuff. And then how are you going to train your privates?
Don't know how to build a hooch.
Yeah, I don't know how to build a hooch. Can't fucking, I mean, it's on and on and on. Even walking, movement in the woods. How often is that going on anymore? I don't know. But anyway, so it's one of those things where we have to adjust. We have to as time goes on. And I was very, very blessed to have gotten through the PSYOP course before the whole digital space existed, because the thing is, it's really weird. Like for years, like a decade, I wouldn't even watch the news because it was overwhelming. I was like, because when you're seeing behind the curtain constantly on every phrase, every topic, every subject, it's just like, man, it's just ugly. It's just ugly.
Here's
And
something that just kind of scared the crap out of me. You know, chat GBT or whatever they're calling this thing. All the AI that's coming out now. Man, you got to know that that's working overtime in psyops.
if you could, would I do it if I could? Hell yeah, I'd
You
do it
know
if
you
I
would,
could. I mean,
and you know they
all day
are.
long. They are doing it constantly. I mean, the fact that the stuff that pops up in your feed, and again, they know what the psychographics is. They know what's going to make money to fund operations, to be able to do other stuff, because that's what that is. A lot of times when you're buying offline, you're just funding somebody else's operation with your cool new toy.
Yeah.
And it never. This is the game. We say it over and over inside the guide. This is the game. This is the game. Learn the game. Learn the game. And I hope that's what we've accomplished. I hope that your top tier snake eater can read it and appreciate it, and the guy working over at Home Depot right now on aisle 7 trying to sell somebody a light fixture, they can understand it too, because that's the deal. We all have to understand the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for a lot of military guys, it's a great book, but I'm more excited about, the person that's never been in the military a day in their life. And, this is going to be, wow, what an eye opener for them. What comes after 5GW? I mean, this thing is just selling, crazy. You got fantastic 5-star reviews. I mean, everyone's loving this book. What's next, and when, when's it coming out?
Well, we're starting on, if this is, think of it like we've now ordained ourselves as civilian TRADOC, okay, training and doctrine. So we've got session 1, November 22nd, November 22 is what came out. Introduction to Fifth Generation Warfare. The series is called The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. And right now I've got roughly 5 different sessions that are planned out that we'll release 2 a year. So we're going to release another one this year. We're going to release one this year, mid-year, and then at the end of the year. And we're going to get through the five that we've got kind of scratched out, and they each have a different topic within the context of fifth generation warfare. Because there's no way you could throw all of this at one time. You know what I mean? It's kind of like get it out there, get everybody somewhat saturated, and let's build on it, because there's so much out there. So this one's going to sit out there for about the next 6 months or so, and then we're going to follow it up with session 2. And I'm not going to tell everybody what session 2 is. You're going to have to wait for that. But then by the time we get to session 5, it's going to be time to redo Introduction to 5GW. So then we'll come out with, session 1, maybe then it's going to be November 2025. So we have a constant revolving door of putting the information out and then updating it in real time as technology and as techniques present themselves. We're the place where you can go to, and the populace can collect all these things, and they have a reference guide, and it's in the physical domain. It's a physical book, so it's not like someone can delete it. I mean, unless it gets burned up in a fire or someone just completely, your house gets engulfed in a flood or something. This is yours. It's not dependent on your phone, not dependent on your computer. It's dependent on you being able to sit in a corner, tune everything out, and absorb the information.
Mm. Hey, one thing I wanted to ask you too, without giving away the book, if you could just talk about shaping operations. That's a term that we use in the military, and we know that creates conditions for success. But what could you tease something out that we're seeing right now, real time? In whatever media, you're seeing some shaping operations. And it may not be in the book, maybe just something you can throw out there that would help people kind of see kind of what's going on. Just giving like an example.
Oh, we're seeing a ton of shaping going on right now with regards to, what's happening between Russia and the CCP, Taiwan. That letter that was written by that Air Force general, I think, that got released a couple days ago.
No
I think
doubt.
there's
no doubt.
There's a pretty huge. What's that guy looking at? He's looking at the adversary's shaping operations, and he's going, "Oh shit! Guess what? Air Force might have to carry the ball on this thing." And there's a reason. I mean, you take that whole letter and you break it down. And you say, okay, why would a person say this in that position? What gets this person to say that? What impetus? What susceptibility? What vulnerability says, oh my God? I mean, everything they say is pointing back to a vulnerability. When I saw that letter, it was like, let's say, go faster. Like, we're running out of time. The conditions are coming. The conditions in the U.S. and in China and in Russia all at the same time. So around that 2025. We look at our own supply chain issues and all this other stuff. These are all shaping operations to degrade our country so we can't respond to what other people do in different places in the world. So what do we do? And it's in here. I think it's chapter 8 when we start talking about reliability networks. Reliability networks, and this is mark my word on this. This is going to be the thing. You're going to look at it, and I'm going to look at it, and we're going to go, oh, yeah. And by the way, I'm already halfway there because I was in the military, and I understand that people work as a team. Not everybody can do everything. So we have to, take skills that each person has and meld them together to create some sort of team. Those reliability networks are going to become hugely, hugely, hugely important. Now, and almost impossible to build if people don't get started soon. And what we're talking about is reliability networks within a 10-minute car ride of your home. So if you know somebody, and what's a reliability network? Circle of trust. It means like, okay, if everything went to shit tomorrow, okay, and I needed a tooth pulled, nobody has any money. Everything is collapsed. Who do I know that can pull a tooth? I need to find, who do I know that can fix a car? Who do I know that can fix a computer? Who do I know that knows how to find the best fishing spots if I have to get food? Who will let me pick from their garden if they have a garden and I need food? Who's a hunter who knows where the hunting spots are so I can get food? So it's these basic things that if everything breaks down and fuel costs are so high, within a 10-minute car drive of your house, can you build a network of people that can do all the things that you might need to accomplish and survive in times of scarcity? This is where we need to go. This is where everybody needs to be right now. And while you're building these reliability networks, keep your eye on what's happening politically, because You've seen it, and I've seen it. The political warfare side of fifth generation warfare. Huge distraction is going to happen someplace. Meanwhile, while that's happening, all these politicians and politically, geopolitically, and within our own country, they're going to be making moves, and nobody's going to notice because there's huge distractions. We talk about that in the guide. We talk about how Iran did that with Iraq. Here we are in Iraq fighting the hell out of everybody in the streets. Meanwhile, Iran's laughing at us, taking over the government. They take over the government and then politely say, "Hey, can you please get the fuck out now?"
That's
That's
exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
Hey,
and so the political warfare is where the real game was. It wasn't in the street it wasn't in the street kicking doors and fucking punching targets. The real game was in the political warfare.
Yeah, but it was so much fun,
Iran,
Boone.
I'm not saying it wasn't a good time, but I mean, right now Iran owns Iraq. They own it.
Right.
Okay. And Iraq and Iran, I mean, they fought each other on that border for how long? Threw everything at each other, almost decimated the military age males of both countries, and it was a stalemate. We go in, we punch Saddam's ticket, and next thing you know, Iran just literally walks in, takes over the government, and it's that way today. It's that way today.
Yeah, you mentioned something and a couple things, reliability networks, and then you talked about Iraq. And I remember Iraq, and one of the things that you have to keep in mind is you remember how quick it got tribal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everyone was kind of like, okay, I'm going to get out of this neighborhood because this is not where I need to be hanging out, and I'm going to go over here with these people that are kind of like-minded. And, as much as we don't, like to admit it, you're really going to, in order to have a successful reliability network within the type of distance that you're talking about, you're really going to have to try to seek out like-minded people, your clan, your tribe, people that you can depend on, that share your love of freedom, if you will, and then kind of go from there. I mean, some people might have to start thinking about where they're at geographically.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think when we talk about the path to destruction, I forgot what chapter it's in. I think it's in second. Let me look real quick. When we talk about the specific, there it is. It's how to make people kill people. I think that is a huge. This chapter 3 starts at lesson 3-3, and it starts with polarization, then it's tribalization, dehumanization, and then killing. There is. Look around right now. How much polarization do you see? It's intense. And from that polarization comes tribalization. How many people do you know right now that have, I don't like my job anymore. These damn liberals or these racists and so people have moved their jobs. They've taken different jobs because of some polarizing political topic that has nothing to do with their job. It's the people who are there. How many people have moved from one city to another, from one county, from one state to another, so they can be around more people who they think are like them? There's huge exoduses from one state to another into another state. I mean, we are tribalizing as a country right now. We are tribalizing.
That's
and
true.
It doesn't lead to a good place. It does not lead to a good place.
Yeah, that's fantastic, my friend. There's so many places we can go with this book. But, guys listening, you just need to get your own copy. In fact,
we got ours.
Yeah, every freedom-loving citizen around the world needs to have one of these copies, let alone American citizens. So, Boone, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I know this book is an enormous wake-up call. It's timely. I'm glad you wrote it. I know I'm going to learn a lot from it, and I'm going to turn to it a lot in the days ahead. Looking forward to that second session coming out. We're all going to have bated breath until it happens. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you both, and thanks for having me on. And I'll make it out to your neck of the woods sooner than later. We'll go grab a drink and talk some bullshit and have some good times.
Absolutely, definitely
Awesome.
take you up on those beers you promised.
I always come through.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, boys. You have a great day.
Enjoyed
Thanks for having me on the
today's
show.
episode
Happy to
of the
come back
Pineland
anytime.
Podcast. If you enjoy our unique content, please consider supporting our sponsors. Soft News, providing special operations news from around the world. It's where Paul and I go to keep abreast of what's going on within the SOF community. Check them out at soft.news. news. Blacksmith Publishing. Been serving the warrior class since 2013. They have great titles written for warriors by warriors. If you're looking for excellent reference material or just want to unwind with a great novel, be sure to check out the bookstore located at blacksmithpublishing.com. And if you're looking for some cool Pinelander apparel, head on over to the general store located at pinelandergeneralstore.com. That's all one word, pinelandergeneralstore.com. Have a great selection of shirts, hats, jackets, sweaters, stickers, patches, artwork, and a whole lot more. Check out the store at pinelandergeneralstore.com. If you're interested in helping develop our country's next generation of warriors, please consider donating to the American Agoge Project. The mission of the project is to foster an environment producing able-bodied citizen warrior men of fine character. And we'll be officially launching the project in 2023 in celebration of Blacksmith Publishing's 10th anniversary. Until our next meeting, stay mentally and tactically smart, physically and spiritually strong, and socially astute. To each other we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. May God continue to bless Pineland.